Turn it up.
Yeah,
Bro.
it was a little premature, wasn't it?
Yeah, you kind of jumped the gun a little bit, but it wasn't too bad.
Yep.
All right, man. I'm going right at this thing. I'm so excited for this topic.
Well,
Actually,
I'm curious. It looks pretty nerdy. You were like
I know
scribbling notes.
it's hella nerdy. I had to write down a
terms
couple
and
things
stuff.
specifically because I didn't want to.
Should we run it through Chat GPT?
Yeah, I need to because I didn't want to say it wrong and do it a disservice. Okay, so stage setter.
Okay.
Stage setter. So I'm 48. You're a little bit 46.
45. Thanks.
45. Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay. 45. I'm 48, deep into 48, headed to 49, unfortunately. Right.
And for those that don't relate to these age numbers because you're older or younger, Brandon's at the age where when he needs to look at his phone or read like a post-it note or something, he's got to hold it
that's right.
about 40 inches out in front of him.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's actually the optimal distance.
Yeah.
It's actually just under 40 inches. And for those of you not watching the video, I'm also holding up my dumb readers.
Yeah.
That I have to have poised all over the office and house.
Just as a point of reference.
Yeah, just as a point of reference. Now, I can still bench press more than maybe quite a few of the people listening.
Probably.
Yeah. I don't even know if that's true anymore. Yeah. Anyways, all right, here's the deal. Okay. So this second half topic, this midlife topic has come up a few times.
Okay.
But I actually ran into some interesting stuff not that long ago. If I remember right, this was what it might have been one of the big 2 or 3 podcasts that we listened to. Anyways, the person, Arthur Brooks. Okay. Yeah. He's now a current traveling professor at a Harvard level Ivy League college. And he teaches very specifically on some transitions that our brains go through. And specifically in this case, through his own experience, he was able to, through research, start to identify actually what's happening. And that when people understand it, instead of running into a conflict in this perceived decline, we can actually proactively lean in and maximize what's happening, because it's not only the loss of something, it's also the gaining of something else. Okay. You with me so far?
I'm with you so far.
Okay. So the concept is that for many of us, let's say you're in the really late 30s, starting to move into the 40s, you may find, for example, you're putting out in order to get the same level of production. And this isn't just physically, we're really talking about mental and mental energy. You may find in order to get the same result that it's more taxing than it was before.
Yeah.
Or the things like the grind in quotes that you've been gunning on for the last decade, all of a sudden you're having more mornings in the week where you're like, holy cow, this is exhausting, right? Or in general, you're finding yourself slowing down on innovation, creativity, like your ability to come up with the new plan, the new concept, is just weaning a bit.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that this is an actual chemical process that's happening inside the body. And the challenge that we have as individuals is when we don't understand it and lean in and begin to adapt our goals, our focus with this in mind, you can be in this perpetual state of feeling old.
Yeah.
Or feeling like you're declining, or feeling confused because your ego is still stuck to these things you were good at one time, but you're now good at something else and you may not realize it. Right?
Okay.
So I was leaning in on this, man. Okay. When I heard this, because like for those of you that have heard the show more than once, you understand we've hired some younger guns into the team. We talk about Wayne all the time. Not that the guy's perfect. The guy certainly can make me infuriated and from time to time, and I know I can piss him off, but he's unbelievably capable.
Yeah.
And he's a young man, right? And so I get this pressure sometimes as a leader. I'm like, I should be able to solve problems as fast as he does. I should have this innovation, this creativity, this solution finding like he does. And recently, Chris, we had a phase where I was kind of caught in my own ego around this, and I was feeling frustrated, and it was creating some tension between he and I in terms of what's the role I really should be leaning into? Where do I get out of his way? What freedoms do I continue to give him? And we've had several ways that we've fixed that we get into relationship. We talk through stuff just kind of like you and I do. But for the first time in a long time, all of a sudden I understood at a high level what was happening. And because I started to understand this, the confidence that I had to lean out of the lane that he should be in and lean more prolifically into the lane I should be in, the way that my mind is processing that is so much different because I'm armed with this knowledge, right? I just did the 14-minute intro that should be the buzz, right? Okay, so here's this. There's two kinds of intelligence that a person lives in.
Sure.
Okay. There's one that is deemed or called the fluid intelligence, and then there's one called the crystallized intelligence. Okay. And this is scientific. This isn't an opinion. This is backed with research. Fluid intelligence is the stuff that we use and leverage in our day-to-day life pretty much up until, in most cases, into our young 30. Once 30 hits, there's a kind of a mid ground that you begin to move into. And once you get into your mid 40s, later 40s, you begin to move into crystallized intelligence. And if you don't understand the difference between these two things, that's where you begin to feel a decline and you start to compete and protect your ego. And really, it can become very destructive. This is part in what produces midlife crisis and burnout.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
With me? Okay. So in a fluid intelligence, that is so it peaks at youth. I said that, but this is our problem solving. This is innovation. This is creativity. This is you're building your works of art, for an instance. So example, this is true in musicians, financial professionals, attorneys. There's this piece in their younger years where you will see, and if you look back in history, most of the most beautiful, influential work that was created, launched, or developed is often done before the age of 40.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that people keep trying. But if you look at their body of work, and this is true in a lot of cases with writers, I mean, this is very common. There's anomalies everywhere, but this is very common. This decline. So all the buzz, the flash happened earlier, and then they spend the trailing year of their career trying to do it again unsuccessfully. Okay. So then when somebody moves into crystallized intelligence, this obviously happens kind of 40 on. This is accumulated knowledge, deep insight, the recognition of patterns.
Yeah.
Meaning you've spent enough time doing the innovating and doing the creation and problem solving that you just kind of know what you know now.
Yeah.
And when you see things, your ability to interpret the information at a broader scale is better as well. And so the idea here, the principle of kind of what Arthur is talking about is that as individuals, if we're really keyed in on this understanding, we can in the later like 30s, kind of going into our 40s, we can begin to prepare and shift our strategy and our focus and our roles and our businesses to become more in alignment and leverage the crystallized intelligence and not lose ourselves in the process.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, man, this is that stuff that sometimes I tap into that just kind of freaks me out because it explains so much of what my world is experiencing. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes total sense. Right.
Well, you know what that like feeds into is it's like if you understand that you possess crystallized intelligence and that your main superpower has become or is becoming the ability to spot patterns, right? And then make judgments from that and make decisions from that pattern recognition, or that your primary intelligence now is about synthesizing different pieces of information and knowledge and understanding versus coming up with creative ideas, driving innovation, right? It just helps me. It helps me better lead.
Yeah.
Because if I recognize, hey, look, like a Wayne is chemically going to be more capable, likely, of coming up with better ideas and innovation than then I can set back and give him all the space he needs to do that, knowing that there's going to be an opportunity for me to use my intelligence to help vet those ideas based on the pattern recognition and my ability to synthesize different bits of data and information
Yep.
that we can work really collaboratively to create something more powerful, more efficient, more profitable, more whatever,
100%.
than if Wayne was purely relying on his own intuition and knowledge and intelligence. Like together we can bring those two things to create better outcomes.
That's it. Yeah, I think another way to consider this, right, is that we've been kind of exposed to, and we've leaned a lot into two kind of fundamental, I guess, thoughts, processes, whatever. One being definition of done, and the other one thinking through the buy-in equation, right? Our friend Casey introduced us, I think, more formally to the buy-in equation. Very powerful tool.
Yeah.
So two concepts very quickly. Buy-in equation is this idea that the quality of the idea times the
Buy-in of the team.
the buy-in of the team will equal execution.
Yeah.
And so you could have a great idea that you developed, the team doesn't have any buy-in on, and your execution will be dog crap. The idea could be decent. Buy-in's crazy high because they came up with it. Execution is 90%, right? So important. The difference is important. And then the other idea is this definition of done. And what that is simply is that when you put a project in the hands of your team, when you put an initiative, a quarterly rock in the hands of your team, as the highest level key leader, CEOs, business owners, founders, a lot of times your responsibility is to help create a clear definition of done. Don't tell them how. Tell them very specifically what you need to see as an outcome. And if you think about that example, for instance, in this concept, then it makes so much sense that you, as the leader that's been around the block, you've had your nose bloodied several times, like you just understand what data is telling you more readily in terms of just kind of the broad worldview on the business.
Yeah.
You're very capable of saying what I need as an outcome. And likely you're leaning hard into that crystallized intelligence. You're saying my scars have taught me my clients need to experience X.
Yeah.
Or from my perspective, in order for this to make sense culturally, we need to accomplish this thing, definition of done, but then get out of the way of all that youth and superpower in your business and let them use the fluid intelligence to create the how, because that's where the innovation and the creativity comes into place. They're going to create the plan of how to get you what you need, but you've got to use that crystallized intelligence to create a clear definition of done. And it's like, when I frame something from that perspective, it makes it so much easier for me to adjust the value that I find in myself professionally by leaning into what my body and my system is actually designed better to do now.
Well, it's interesting you bring this up because this reminds me of Dan Martell.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
Dan Martell talks a lot about this, of just really, he's built his empire and his portfolio of success around getting really clear with his partners and his people about what the outcome needs to look like, and then just holding them accountable to that. Right.
Yeah.
And of course, he talks a fair bit around hiring the best talent you can afford at all times.
Yeah.
Right. Not looking for deals in the talent marketplace, but paying people really well, and you'll always get better outcomes.
Yeah.
But he talks about this, and I think that speaks to this crystallized intelligence of, we kind of know what the outcome needs to look like based on these patterns of experience, but the how to get there, we probably don't. What it sounds like this Arthur C. Brooks thing is that we probably don't actually have the best ideas anymore.
Yeah.
Like, our brain is not tuned in our 40s to come up with the broadest spectrum of possibilities and ways of doing things. Our downline people are probably more suited for that, if we're honest, which is such a hard thing. Like, especially if you're a guy like Dan Martell and you've already got your McLaren, right? And you kind of know you're the shit because you have these material.
Maybe for him it's easier, actually.
It might be. I don't know.
This shift,
Yeah, maybe it is.
Yeah.
Right. But I think it's hard for most of us, though, to get over that hump. Like you talked about how it's been a journey for you.
Yeah. It's a day-to-day thing. Yeah. It's interesting because just to add this level of depth, because I actually think this is very important. is that Arthur C. Brooks too is also very adamant. Like his book is written for strivers.
Yeah.
This is not something that you tell somebody that's still struggling to get out of their parents' basement. What he's saying is for those type A's, those drivers, those builders, the people that are in constant state of motion trying to achieve, this is very relevant because there becomes a point where the energy that we are deploying is not yielding the returns and something's going to give. Like either mentally, emotionally, we start to break down because we lose confidence. We're frustrated by the lack of performance or maybe the lack of the outcome based, in context with the level of effort being delivered. And so again, I do want to stage set because that's what he's talking about here. He's talking about for those folks that are grinding gears and they're good at working their face off. Like something does have to give. Otherwise you will.
Yeah.
And that's what he's trying to prevent, right? Is these catastrophic mental kind of breakdowns that happen in the form of burnout. So one of the things that he was talking about with this is this very natural evolution into a more coaching, guiding type role. And what's so interesting, man, it's like I think sometimes when I get exposed to ideas like this, you just realize how many times you've been told or learned some version of this over your lifetime. But each time you return to the topic with a slightly different perspective, it just makes it more clear and concrete.
Yeah.
And so, I have a bit of a like Christian environment that I've been around since probably my kind of early 20s on. You obviously grew up in a church environment, and I think it's very common inside religious and church environments to hear things like you should always have a mentee and you should probably always have a mentor. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and I've heard this often with men, especially. This is true probably for humans, but men, I've been told like, hey, it's very healthy to have somebody you're pouring into and having somebody out in front of you
You're submitting to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's funny because this is like, I'm not trying to get religious, but it's just so interesting to me how often I'm learning that science backs some of these things that have been used or deployed in religious environments. Like science is making this happen. This is natural evolution of the human design over time. As you age, you're actually being equipped to move into a mentor type relationship.
Sure.
Like you're being designed for it.
Yeah, we're built for it. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think religion helps give us definition to things that we feel and experience.
Yeah.
Right? It helps us it gives us words and language to describe these things. And then I think science over time, right? It comes around and validates those things. It says, oh, by the way, that's actually real. And here's why that's real.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. I think the reason why maybe this is important is our ego our identity gets so wrapped up in our fluid intelligence.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, for sure.
Like our identity gets really caught up in what I know, what the value in what I know. Right? And so as that starts to shift, it's like there's a denial that sets in.
Yeah.
And I think that all of us deal with that denial differently. I mean, some of us like get into the gym.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm going to
outrun it.
I'm going to fight this inevitable thing that's happening.
Yep.
Right. And therefore it's not happening. Right. Because like we feel like we can kind of control it. We can harness that lightning.
That's
right.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, there's certain things that we can't outrun.
That's right.
And that really offends the ego.
Oh yeah.
Because we've spent most of our life up until then as we can adapt and outrun anything we choose to in some ways.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's a lot we've figured out. I can outrun this. I can outsmart this.
Yep.
And then you get to a point where it's like, okay, I actually probably don't have the ability or the capacity to outrun those things.
Yep.
That's a really tough thing to swallow. But I think what you talk about though is then I become more interdependent on others to maximize the value I'm able to bring.
Yeah, it's leading through others.
Right?
Right? Like it's so interesting to me, man. all these just of layers of, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that, and I think what you just highlighted, right,
I
is
have a
that,
thing I'm looking up, by the way,
okay,
on
yeah.
GPT here that I was
So
thinking
one of
of.
the things I just want to highlight based on what you just said, because I think it's really important, is that mentioning of the ego component. I think what this empowers us to ultimately be able to do is that it allows us to look at this and say, hey, I can actually proactively lean into
Yeah.
developing this, setting the stage, looking for my succession plan inside the entity. And
Yeah.
not only is it okay, like I think that's what I want to try to promote here, is it's not simply that it's okay to do that. It's actually the right thing to do.
Yep.
Like, your team's going to get more from you if you lean into the right space based on age and just maturity,
Yeah.
versus continuing to try to be the star quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is, you know what this reminds me of is, God, probably 15 years ago. My friend John Bergquist, who passed away actually when he was 50 in a car accident here 5 years ago, maybe.
Jeez, young dude.
Anyway, so he and I, like, one of the first things that how I got to know him was he invited me to this John Eldredge
Oh yeah.
men's retreat.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you that don't know John Eldredge, he wrote this super famous book called Wild at Heart.
Mm-hmm.
He's written a bunch of other books though too. It's a great book. Whether you're religious or not, like it's a great book, I think
it's
for men.
awesome. Yeah.
And but
Especially if you have
one of the other
boys.
books that I found really useful, and it's got more of a religious kind of title to it, but I found it incredibly useful, was this book called Fathered by God.
Hmm.
And it's where Eldredge breaks down what he believes to be sort of the 6 stages of manhood that
Interesting.
we move through,
Yeah.
or
Okay.
we're intended to move
Is this
through.
heroic journey? Is that part of that mix?
Well, that's part of his whole narrative. That's
Okay.
kind of the stuff he talks about. I think he referenced that in a lot of his books. But
Okay.
so what's interesting is these are the 6 stages of manhood, because I think it speaks to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And a part of the premise, by the way, is that he speaks to these stages as essential
Hmm.
and fundamental to becoming a whole man, right?
Yep.
And so he's speaking to masculinity, and he has a whole other book that his wife and he co-wrote for women along the same lines. But he feels like these are compulsory, and things happen to us in our life that cause us to miss out on certain stages because of our own earthly fathering.
Okay. Yeah.
Or family culture, trauma, and different things like that. We'll miss these stages, and how essential it is for men to go back and recover
Interesting.
those stages on purpose. Okay, so hang with me.
Yeah.
So
This sounds like another episode.
yeah, I know,
But
I think it's all kind of runs together in a way. So the first stage is the boyhood stage, which is the beloved son. And the core need is to know that they're loved and delighted in. Like, they're desirable and they're loved, basically. And it's essential that a boy learns that about themselves. Okay. And I'll come back to what he says if you miss this stage, or you didn't get this, because certainly there's many men that did not grow up in that kind of environment in their early years. They didn't feel love. They didn't feel those things, right?
Yeah. What is it called again? One more time.
It's called Fathered by God. And the first stage is the boyhood stage, which is referred to as the beloved son. That's the identity that's sort of important for a boy to achieve, I guess.
Yeah.
Then the second one is the cowboy stage. This is early teens to 20s. And the core need is adventure, exploration. The primary lesson of this stage is you have what it takes.
Ooh, this is good.
It's really good.
This is an oldie but goodie, dude.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And then the third stage is the warrior stage. This is late teens to 30s. And the core need is there's a battle to fight. This is what they need present in their life. There's a battle to fight, a strength to prove, or a mission to embrace. And the primary lesson is you are strong and capable. Right. This is I have the capacity and ability to fight for things that are more important, that are their importance extends beyond my own self, right? This is fighting for others. This is sort of learning that whole stage of defending others, etc. The fourth stage is the lover stage. And this is mid to late 20s and onward, the core need being to learn intimacy, beauty, and emotional depth. The primary lesson is your heart and what's happening inside you matters. right? It matters to your overall well-being. And I think some men never ever get this, right? And so there's just
some of these almost parallel each other. Is
Yeah.
what I just heard there.
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit. Okay.
Yep. Okay. So then, interesting. So after the lover stage, and of course, this involves sort of the having initial romantic relationships, getting married, right, establishing a family and stuff, right.
Yeah.
And then he talks about the king stage, which is, and this happens for different people, right, differently for folks, late 30s through their 60s. Some of us are late bloomers.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really start establishing a kingdom, right, until some of us in our 40s, right? But the core need is to rule with wisdom, protect others, and to build a legacy.
Interesting.
And the primary lesson is that you begin carrying the weight of others' lives, not just your own. Right? And then finally, the sixth stage is the sage. And this tends to be late 60s and onward. But I think, especially as wealth creation has started to accelerate in our Western culture, I think some men, like I know of a couple guys that I see entering that stage in their 40s.
Yeah.
But generally, this is late 60s and onward. And I think the other reason for that, of why it still tends to be late 60s, I've heard him speak to this, is because even though we may have the financial wherewithal to move into that sage stage earlier on, is that generally our egos are going to perpetuate the king building, the empire building.
Yeah.
And so while we could step in and we have something to offer in that sage role, is we tend to delay moving into the sage because so much of our identity and our pleasure is tied in continuing to stack the chips.
Yep, that's right.
Right. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's also not fundamentally a good thing.
Yeah.
That we want to hang in that stage and delay being a sage.
Yeah.
Right. But it says, so the core need in this in the sage stage, I have to really pause for that one, is to impart wisdom, offer counsel, and bless the next generation.
Yeah.
And the primary lesson there is your voice and experience matters.
Man. That aligns.
I love this book, and I know this is a little pivot off of where you started, but I think it all aligns. But
I think so.
The interesting thing for me when I went through that, it was a 3-day men's weekend.
Yeah.
It was a very emotional one.
Yeah.
For all of us that were there, it was like 40 dudes at this thing, many of them business owners. And there was this realization that a lot of the dysfunctions and the struggles and things that negative things that they were experiencing and I was experiencing in my life at that time, which this was like 15 years ago or something, are a result of having never moved through one of those stages. And for me, one of the things that I realized about myself, and it was really, I think, a product of my dad never moving through that as well, because he was not fathered in a particular way, was the cowboy stage. There was a gap. This was 15 years ago, and I could tell you 4 or 5 things that I intentionally did from this weekend to sort of reclaim and almost refather myself. I know it sounds weird to some people listening, but I had to intentionally refather myself through the cowboy stage of learning I'm capable. I've got what it takes. Because my dad, I don't think his father ever stewarded, I guess, that portion of his job. And so my dad, I think there was an element where he never experienced that sort of risk-taking and adventure and discovering I can handle myself, I can handle life and anything that's thrown at me. And therefore there was these key parts of my life too, where I did not have a certain kind of confidence in myself and ability to basically deal with whatever, come what may. I can handle it. There was a part of that was underdeveloped in me. You know, and so I was encountering struggle and difficulty, and it was really like it was causing problems for me. But I was able to go back and do certain things, and I'll just say one thing that I did, it was very arbitrary, that made a profound difference in my self-confidence in this area, was snow camping.
Oh yeah.
This was about that time when I started doing that.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I didn't know until I did it. I just started saying yes to things, was part of the stage for me.
Okay.
Another example was, this happened about 10, 12 years ago. A buddy was like, hey, do you want to climb Middle Sister with me? I'd never climbed mountains. I didn't know if I could do it. And ultimately, it actually was a terrible hardship for me because I have a torn meniscus in my knee, and coming down 19
Oh
miles,
yeah.
it was absolute misery.
Yeah, I've done it.
And uh, it showed me something about myself
Mhm.
when I got on the other side of it.
Mhm.
The same thing was true. I had some legit scary experiences snow camping, some life threatening situations where it showed me a part of myself
Yeah.
that my dad, for whatever reason, for a whole variety of reasons, was not able to help me see in
Yeah.
myself earlier on, right?
Yeah.
But I found that really powerful, that there are these arbitrary things that we must progress through as a man. And if we don't, there's a real gap in what we're able to offer other people,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And our own personal capacity for things.
Yeah.
But if you're intentional about that, I think by the time we get to these stages
Yep.
and our intelligence is shifting, um, I think part of us going back and recovering some of those parts that maybe some of us missed is I think it allows us to maybe shift into what you're talking about
Yeah.
more successfully.
Yeah.
And our ego doesn't hold us back quite as like vigorously
Yeah.
when we get to
Exactly.
that stage, because we've kind of learned how to double down on certain things at certain parts of our life, but then to hang up certain things too as time goes by.
Yeah.
And to recognize it's like, okay, I have what I need. Now it's coming this time where it's my role is to,
Yeah.
and we're okay with it,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah. It's spot on, dude. Look, I think this is kind of where I think we ended up going ultimately is I think we just often end up suffering because we don't have a broader understanding of what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's like
We're fighting what
we're
is.
fighting what
We're fighting
is.
reality.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
instead of, I'm going to only speak for myself. I have a lot of patterns that I will deploy to protect myself.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's everything from different types of substance abuse that I've explored and experimented with. There's digital entertainment. There's a lot of things that I have to hold at bay and stay present to the pain, the challenge, the thing, the emotion that I'm facing in that moment. Because when I do, I learn.
Yeah.
And when I learn, it changes the way that I approach a similar situation in the future.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're alluding to. Like we're all pretty good at surviving, but that's not thriving.
Yep.
And I think one of the things that I'm just learning more and more of is that in order to thrive, that's not necessarily a product of money, wealth, titles, um, certain awards or successes. Thriving is you being at home in the current state of things, and ultimately, and again, it's like I couldn't have told you this 2 weeks ago even, but it's this idea of you being more aligned with what your system is currently designed to be doing. And I think that that's when you begin to find this thriving. It's like you're aware enough of I need to make these shifts, not out of guilt or shame or demand. It's because I'm designed to be doing that. Like this isn't you doing something because you have to. It's doing something because it's part of the flow.
Yeah.
It's part of the process. It would be the same way you get tired swimming upstream.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
emotionally and chemically, we're trying to swim upstream instead of going the way that it's intending to take us because it's taking us the right place. Like it's designed to move us through these growth and maturity patterns in our life. And when we lean into those the right way, we're empowered to be able to do something with it. We can show up and be our best version of that
Yeah.
versus kicking and screaming and doing some kind of half-ass or subdued version of what you want to be versus what you're intended to be.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. This stuff for me as I get older is it's just fun.
I think it just brings a lot of clarity
Yeah.
to life.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
motivating. You know what
well,
I mean?
and I think especially for high achievers, it's drilled into our head, but frankly, by the Gary Vaynerchuk's, the Dan Martells, these uber successful people that are
Yeah.
driving the fancy cars, have the lots of commas and zeros, on their net worth. And it's really easy as an achiever in this culture to become locked in on what I need to be and what my life needs to look like in order for me to be valuable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know I've spent years struggling through this. There's a should.
Yeah.
There's a should that I'm chasing out there. I should have this. I should have this balance in my bank account. I should have this in my investment portfolio. I should have this amount of sex in my marriage. I should have this. I should be admired by my children in this particular way. I should. It's like we have this picture in our head
Hmm.
based on what's being thrown at us in media and now social media. It's like, God, dude, social media has messed with our brains in some pretty profound ways.
Yeah.
Like there's obviously some really awesome things that all of us have experienced about social media too, but in part, it's made the picture so clear of what we should be.
Yeah. Should. Yeah.
And then you start to lay hold of some of these more, let's just call it, because John Eldredge didn't come up with this stuff.
No.
This was him synthesizing things that his mentors have told him and scripture and just all these other things. It's like when you start to lean into just these ancient truths of over the sands of time, these are the things that men have observed about themselves and about sort of the journey of man. You start to lean into this stuff and you're like, okay, there's something just fundamentally real about it that you start to recognize in yourself.
Yep.
And then it can, I think if you let it, start to take some of the pressure off of the shoulds.
Yeah.
And I'm just finding, like for me, this was 10, 15 years ago, it was a big transformative turning point for me.
Yeah.
Because I realized why I was doing some of the things I was doing or not doing those things. And the truth, they say the truth will set you free, right? It always does.
Yeah.
It always does, because you can't unlearn it. You can't unsee it. And I just found that so profound. And I think it's made me more comfortable with the idea. Well, here's an example for me. Wayne and I are going to be on stage together in September.
Yeah.
It'll be the first time that Wayne has spoken on an open stage. And it's funny, Wayne and I, in one of our little planning discussions, I love how honest Wayne is. Like, if you can count on anything from Wayne, you can count on him telling the truth.
At least his truth.
His truth. What he's thinking, he doesn't hide it. And, we were just talking about the format of this talk, and you say, hey, Chris, can I just be totally honest? Like, my fear is that this is going to be the Chris show, and I'm going to be playing second fiddle and kind of chiming in every now and then on the topic of property management or something, like because that's where he came from. And I was like, well, let me actually tell you what my intention is, Wayne. Like, you are our strategic planning guy. You are, it's like Brandon and I know strategic planning. We've done it in the past, like I said, but you are the one who championed it inside our company. You led us through a strategic planning process that we've adopted as a company. You are that guy. And I said, my intention is that you are the star of the show. And I'm just the story guy back here, kind of adding some comic relief and adding some context to what you're saying. I'm like, but as far as I'm concerned, you're number one, I'm number two. And I think 5 years ago, I wouldn't have even invited Wayne on stage. Because I enjoy it so much. And it really feeds me. But I do feel like I'm, as in the 40s, I'm starting to recognize what you are, which is like my best and my highest and best use, to use a real estate term, right? My highest and best use is for me now probably to collaborate, like that's my highest and best. It doesn't mean I can't go have a really great time and really go kill a talk on stage because I enjoy it so much. But it probably means that moving forward, and you have your own thing, my highest and best use is to find a way to bring somebody along with me. Right. And to give them a container where they can start to do that thing. And I can continue to do my thing, but it's like me sharing that attention and sharing that stage is far and away the best thing that I can possibly do. Right?
I think so. I think at the bottom of all of this, right, is this idea that we've leaned into now for years. And that's that idea that leaders are force multipliers. And I think that there's just these layers, right? So when we say that often about, like, department heads, and we're talking about, division level leaders, what we're asking them to do is find successors, create that pattern, that pipeline of leadership in the organization, and be developing and bringing people up behind you, because that's ultimately what is the foundation for future growth and scale. And so in order to do that, each one of those individuals has to learn how to be that force multiplier. You're good at X, learn how to create more people good at X.
Yeah.
And I think that when you start getting into your mid 40s and your later 40s, the opportunity is for you to be doing that same thing, but the caliber of people or the thing that you're helping people become good at and lean into becomes higher and higher stakes.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I think about Wayne's, like Wayne, he's always managed a big budget, multi-site properties, lots of doors. Like he's got the business acumen to do these things. It's why he's here. But I think also the moving parts, some of the gray that exists and how we have to do what we do, the exposure to an industry at large, like he is now learning and getting exposed to a new tier of opportunities that really, for the most part, like we, us, whatever, are best equipped to help him walk into that new sphere, right?
Can I get a little woo-woo here and take this down one more level?
I'm going to look at the clock because I don't want to.
Before we wrap up, because I think it's a good. I think this is like an important thing, at least in my experience.
We'll be the judge of that.
So,
me and all listeners, go.
So I think part of what has started to change in me, that again is the difference, maybe even 5 years ago, of me. It would not necessarily have even occurred to me to share the stage, right? To like bring Wayne in on that experience. And I think this is true, and maybe somebody else will relate to this when they think about it. I think part of what has changed in me is that speaking on stage and whatever your gift or talent, that thing that you're good at and you enjoy, just insert this. For me, it's like teaching, being on stage up in front of groups, okay, is one of my things. That thing in our lives, professionally and personally, is such a rich source of affirmation all through our lives. I can do this thing and people will tell me I'm awesome.
Yep.
And then a part of me believes that I'm awesome, and that like stokes my self-confidence and everything else. But I think for me, and I think for a lot of men, everybody, not just a male or female thing, is that we have these points of affirmation that exist in these things that we're good at, right? But I think underneath that is that many of us, there's a lack of self-esteem underneath there, where I don't really love that part of myself, or I'm not actually sure if I'm any good. Like underneath all of it, I'm heavily dependent on other people when I get off stage or at my quarterly review or in my P&L. I'm heavily reliant on what other people say about my performance to validate whether I'm any good and I have any value. And I think the thing that I've noticed inside myself is as I've learned how to love myself, which I know sounds really woo-woo, I get it, but I've recognized there's this part of me that unless other people were telling me I'm rad, there was always this question mark inside of me. And I was always moving from one achievement to the next, just hanging on everybody's words about how rad I am, and seeing and likes on Facebook and people resharing my stuff or giving me accolades or praise online or writing me reviews back when I was a State Farm agent, getting those Yelp reviews and all those things. These were all external points of affirmation. And I think I've seen this in myself, but I see this in our clients. It is that some people, we never ever get across that. We never ever get to the point where we actually just feel great about ourselves absent any external validation. And I think that's something I've noticed in myself as I've looked at it, and I've talked about this with friends and with my wife and everything else, is that I'm starting to get to a point in my career where I don't care what other people think. And I've actually started, even just in the last year, I've been doing a lot more speaking and traveling, right? I used to, the very first thing in my mind when I would get off stage is I'd go ask my contact, What'd you think?
Yeah. How'd it go?
Because I was like,
Yeah.
tell me I'm rad.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
we just move in our lives from one point to another of just waiting or chasing somebody telling us we're awesome.
Yeah.
And I think the problem with that is that it keeps us hunkered down in this stage because we don't want to give up all those points of affirmation that are so reliable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or just where you think you're obtaining your value.
And so the idea of moving from an achievement stage to being the sage and giving back and mentoring and pouring our energy and our time and potentially our resources into others to help them achieve is, if we haven't gotten there, there's a massive thing we're giving up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like our ego is just clawing for affirmation. And it's like, I think Gokula talked about this. It's a common problem he sees when people go to sell their companies is all of their identity is wrapped up in their business. And I'm learning this about myself, is that's because it was such a reliable place to have many people tell them you're the man.
Yeah. 100%.
And giving that up, and we've seen people do this. It becomes a real source of depression and anxiety of, okay, like, who the frick am I now?
Now what? Yeah.
I may have that new, C9 Corvette in the driveway, and I may have all the things now because of my achievements.
Yeah.
But inside, I don't really give a shit because I'm no longer, nobody's telling me I'm the man anymore in these various ways.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. I think inevitably it's just a version of, like, I think to some extent, like, that's your experience in this. Right. And I think for others, sometimes it's the output, it's the product, it's the thing, it's the size and complexity of the problem they're solving. Like, it's, because I'm thinking to myself, like, somebody that's a financial advisor really into, whatever data, they're not going to get the same affirmation thrills, but they're just going to get it a different way. The accolade's going to come from the timeliness, the accuracy, the whatever, like, name it, the shoe. We have a pair of shoes we can put on that fits, I guess is what I'm saying. But yeah, this is interesting, man. I love this stuff. I think for all of us, the better job we can do to kind of learn and understand what's affecting the environment around us. Why is it that we see things the way we do or experience the things that we do? It just gives us such a new level of input. It changes the way that we can contribute to that process and that journey in a proactive and meaningful way. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but for me, like, anytime I can be empowered with knowledge and understanding of what's happening, man, it makes me feel more positive about my life in general.
Just perspective.
I feel less a victim and more like, oh, that makes sense. I can get in those waters.
I can get in alignment with that.
Yeah.
Like, exactly. It makes sense.
That's right.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yep.
All right, gang. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Hopefully that's got something of value for you and you guys can carry into it. So cheers to the second half.